Hey, what's up everyone and welcome to another video. Today we will go over a new build that I have been using for a few weeks now and that I find extremely versatile. It is another multi-purpose build which allows me to do pretty much everything that I need to do on a daily basis, whether we're talking about healing, DPSing, questing, farming, and soon, even tanking. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So there you have it, the 21030 Holy Ret build. But before we actually dive into the nitty-gritty details of it, let's quickly go over its pros and cons. So for the pros, it is very scalable with food, alchemy, party, and raid buffs, mainly due to divine strength and divine intellect. You have access to illumination and divine favor, which are incredible talents, guys. They have great synergy together and pretty much give you everything that you need to succeed as a healer in any environment. And speaking of divine favor, it gives you a on-demand free crit heal every 2 minutes. I mean, this is obviously very handy in any situation, as you might imagine. We also get an increased 8% movement speed from Pursuit of Justice, and I'm going to tell you guys, once you've experienced that talent, it's very hard to live without it, as it gives you the increased movement speed and also frees up 2 enchant slots on your gears for your gloves and your boots. Vengeance is also super strong with its increased 15% damage whenever you get a crit with a swing, a spell, or an ability. Quote-unquote free casting can be possible with this build if you swap out some talent for spiritual focus. What I mean by free casting is that with concentration aura and spiritual focus, you achieve that 100% chance not to lose casting time when taking damage, but unfortunately you can still be interrupted and silenced. Now for the cons, we have 5% less holy spell crit compared to a standard healing build, as we don't have enough talent points to put them into holy power. We also don't have any improved blessings, so Blessing of Might and Blessing of Wisdom will be stock, and unfortunately we are limited to only 4 greater blessings, as we don't have the ones in the protection tree, which are Blessing of Kings and Blessing of Sanctuary. In any situation where we need to deal damage in melee, we are having 3% less hit rating, as we don't have the precision talent into the protection tree. So depending on your itemization and or your race, you might have to go around that problem. This build is also not ideal for PvP, as we don't have in the Holy Tree Holy Shock, in the Retribution Tree we don't have Repentance, or any of the protection talents that normally are very good for PvP. So it's kind of an weird in-between build for PvP, so if PvP is really your main concern, this spec is not tailored for you. But you can still bring it to a PvP situation, but you might not have the edge over other players. And last but not least, you will have to fight and live with the stigma around Retribution spec and anything that is out of the box when it comes to the Paladin class, and trust me on that one. And now let's go over the different roles that you can achieve with this build. So let's start with DPS. And let's get this out of the way, guys. Ret Paladins are, well, Ret Paladins, and will more than likely never reach the DPS prowesses of a Fury Warrior or a Rogue. While this build isn't only centered around DPS, it can still be used for that purpose. Seal of Command, Conviction, Vengeance, and Consecration are all present to help you fill in your role. Vengeance is also a key talent, as it basically increases all of your damage by 15% after that crit from a spell, ability, or a swing. It is especially useful when paired with a Consecration, for example. At max rank, it normally deals 384 holy damage over 8 seconds. With a Vengeance proc, you get 57.6 additional damage. And to put this into perspective, without Vengeance, you would need 173 additional spell power to get the same amount of damage, as Consecration benefits from a 33% spell power coefficient. And always remember that a Paladin brings much more than what the meters can ever show. While your own personal DPS might be considered as subpar, you can buff your party members' ability to heal, tank, and DPS. The different auras, blessings, seals, off heals, and your wipe prevention that you bring can really help your team more than you might think. In a way, you kind of sacrifice your own DPS for the good of a party. But at the end of the day, let's be honest guys, for dungeons, you will do just fine as long as you're hit capped and have a decent amount of crit on your gears. And now for farming. For my everyday needs, this spec is very good. Whether I want to farm specific resources, go out in the world and quest, or power level an alt in a dungeon, I am always utilizing the maximum out of this spec. It excels at giving you a smooth and steady flow, which is obviously very good for grinding dungeons or specific mobs. When it comes to sustainability, it is strongly boosted by Divine Favor that gives you that free crit heal every 2 minutes, which is obviously perfect for mana conservation. What is important to note, however, is that this build lacks an efficient way to tag mob at a distance and a fast killing potential without proper gears that might sometimes be difficult to acquire. Most of your damage relies on crits, therefore, if your itemization is missing enough crit to keep a good uptime on Vengeance, you might struggle with contested farming spot, such as the one in Fellwood with the Toxic Horrors. Now for healing, Paladins were made for healing in Classic, there is no doubt about it, and it's really in those environments that they can really shine without a lot of effort. Divine Intellect is a great talent as it gives you a nice bonus for all of the intellect that you will get on your gears, and Healing Light also increases your healing output. But note that Healing Light only affects the base healing of your spells, so it doesn't matter how much spell power you have at the end of the day, it's always going to affect your spells in the same way. And then we get down to Illumination and Divine Favor. Those talents are amazing, guys, and they make you a super strong healer only by themselves. Every time you get a crit with a heal, the mana cost of that spell will be refunded to you, and Divine Favor gives you that on-demand free crit heal, like we've been talking earlier. Paired with Healing Light and Blessing of Light, you can heal literally anything in the game with half a decent set of gears, both while leveling and at level 60. In a raiding environment, just on a side note, I find myself blessing Salvation and Light most of the time, as I don't have access to the improved blessings, or the protection ones, like we stated earlier, which are Kings and Sanctuary. And now, let's go on and talk about tanking. As I haven't had the chance to tank with this build, let's start with the theory about tanking with this 21030 build. So, Divine Strength and Divine Intellect help you immensely with these extra raw stats, as both of them are important ones for tanking. Strength for more damage and block value, and then Intellect as well, for more mana, therefore more threat. Consecration is also part of the build, obviously, and helps a ton with AoE threat, on top of dealing even more damage if you have a Vengeance proc. You also get the extra parry from the Retribution tree, which obviously prevents damage and gives you that parry haste. Your Retribution aura reflects 30 holy damage instead of the regular 20 damage, and improved lay on hand can be really beneficial in hard fights, and dwarves get the extra bonuses from it with the Stormform ability. I think this is really what makes this build viable, is having access to Vengeance. Vengeance can mostly make up for the lack of improved Righteous Fury, as you can see from this graph. You basically just need over 2 full 8-second procs of Vengeance to generate more threat than a standard tanking build with improved Righteous Fury in the same amount of time. I've been talking with other paladins that have had experience with this build, and I asked them a few questions that I wanted to share with you. The first one was, why didn't you pick the 3% hit talent? The answer was that there are plenty of plate gears with hit on them, and also you can have some hit on your jewelry items, and humans wielding maces or sword will need slightly less hit than dwarves. Just as a reminder, against level 60 mobs you will need 5% hit, level 61 you will need 5.5% hit, level 62s you will need 6%, and versus level 63 mobs you will need 9% hit. And the second question I had for them was, why didn't you go and take the extra armor and defense into the protection tree? Wouldn't that be very useful for tanking? And the answer was that the extra armor and defense are good to have, but you can easily get plate gears with high amounts of defense and armor on them, for example the Draconian Deflector from the last boss in Ubers, and or the Deathbone set from Scrolomance. So something that I think we've all seen is that this build has 0 points into the protection tree, and that means we don't have Blessing of Sanctuary. Wouldn't that be a problem while tanking? The answer was that Blessing of Sanctuary is a very good blessing for damage mitigation, but missing out on that 30 mana per 5 second from Blessing of Wisdom can really hurt your mana regeneration in combat. You can kind of get away with it if you have several stacks of the best Mage Water, mana biscuits and or blessed sun fruit juice, mana purified food such as nightfin soup and or mana oils. Having also a spirit set can help you regen a whole lot from pool to pool, especially in large dungeons like Dire Maul with plenty of long walks. Another question was that, what about Reckoning? I was answered that while it can seem good to get an extra attack from critical hits received, the sit/stand tactic requires some time to get used to, and there are instances where you just simply cannot afford to get crit, as the mobs have slower and harder hitting attacks, such as the two-handed weapon-wielding ogres in Dire Maul. And last but not least, I think something that we all realize while looking at this build is that it doesn't have Holy Shield for tanking, obviously. Wouldn't that be a big problem as well? And while Holy Shield is a great talent to get, you need 31 talent points into the protection tree, which closes the door on getting other good talents. It is also a mana intensive ability if you use the higher ranks, and keep in mind that without a decent shield, with a good amount of block and or lots of strength to increase that value, you probably won't be mitigating that much damage anyways. So that's it for this video, guys. I hope that you liked it, and I hope that it will also motivate you to try and experiment with a different build. I know that playing a paladin is all about personal preferences, as we all have our own different tweaks and tricks up our sleeves to get the job done, but it's never a bad thing to try something new and get out of our comfort zone, as sometimes it might do the job just as good or even better than what we might have thought. I also want to give a big shout out to Avargs, which is one of the paladins that helped me bring this guide together, and I just want to say also that this build was introduced to him by Dallas, a very knowledgeable paladin from Lightbringer. As you can see here, this man was very well geared, very well experienced, and knew what the paladin class was all about. So that's going to be it for me, guys, for this video. If you liked it, don't forget to support the channel by hitting the like button and the subscribe button. You can also catch me on my stream here on YouTube or on Twitch as well, on twitch.tv/Bhelockharyh. So that's BHELOCKHARYH. So we'll see you soon, guys. Thank you for tuning in, and in the meantime, have a good one, and most importantly, stay blessed.